Peace and respect. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religion. We have a return guest. Wes, I got to mute that. Got it. Just barely in time. We have Wes Sturdevant again for a second round. And this time he's been kind enough to let me ask him some questions. But before we get to that, Wes, would you please tell everyone what you've got going on in your YouTube and Facebook, etc. life?
A couple of days ago, Justin made me, the empathetic atheist, made me a full-fledged partner. So I'm off to work. I was already helping him out a bit, but excited to work with him. And that's about it. We've got Guild of Reason also that we're trying to get back in gear and do every Friday night. So Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, I'll be busy.
All right. Well, I won't bug you then. On those nights, I won't bug you. Other nights, I might. It's hard to say.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Fair enough. Okay. So what we thought we'd do today is dig in a little bit because, I mean, I really appreciate Wes's brain, but I don't know much about it. I get the impression that he's a very intelligent man, a very kind and patient man, but what does he really think and believe? I just don't know. I only have like some super basic terms, and that's all I got. So Wes, if you would please, would you, I guess a good place to start is truth theory. What do you think?
Sure. I'm just in correspondence truth theory. Pretty much truth is what corresponds to reality. Now that can be a little difficult finding out what reality is, but just because we can't always get there 100% doesn't mean it's not real to me and that it's not very objective.
I'm the same way. I think that I have a very high percentage in my demands for what I accept as reality. If you had to scale your personal preference from 0 to 100, or actually 0 is impossible, 1 to 100.
Yeah.
Where would you put it yourself, your demands?
My what? Sorry.
Your demands for accurate, like we can't have 100%. We never have 100%. But me personally, I think that I need to believe something. I need it at least like 85%.
Oh. Really depends on the topic and such too. So I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to say a percentage overall or anything. It's I try to, let me see. Hume said something about believing in proportion to the evidence you have. And that's kind of what I try to do with everything. I try to just believe as strong as the evidence leads me to. If I only have 60% assurance on something, I try to believe it only 60%.
That sounds smarter than what I do because I'm really a binary switch.
Yeah.
And if something gets to like that 85% or higher, I go, okay, it's true whether I like it or not.
Yeah. I probably do in a lot of cases, and even though I try not to, it's hard not to. We're human. We want to believe things regardless if we have all the information.
Sure. Well, I think like you said, we don't know all things. Thereby, we're always working in percentages of accuracy. Yeah. And some things you just have to accept, even if you can't prove them. And of course, those would be all the axiomatic things.
Presuppositions. Yeah.
Right. They're just necessities. I see people trying to lead me down the path towards solipsism sometimes as an escape route to say, well, how do I know that what you're saying is true? Yeah. Even if I use like correspondence, justified true belief simultaneously, and I do everything I can using as many theories as possible and squeezing them in there wherever I can. Even if I do that, someone can always say, oh, solipsism. But then I have to retort with, well, then shut up. Because you're talking to yourself, and I don't want to be part of you talking to yourself. I don't find that entertaining.
Yeah.
So, and besides, in solipsism, it doesn't add up well that we would be self-deprecating at times, if solipsism is true. And that's really my best argument against solipsism. Okay, so within correspondence and trying to believe something only as much as there is evidence for.
Yeah.
Do you hold positions on? Everyone does, I guess. It's a silly question to ask you if you hold positions. What would your positions on? I don't know. Religiosity, value of society, individual, the value of an individual or group. How important is truth? Those sorts of things. Would you talk something about?
You have several there. So religion.
I'm trying to give you trying to give you some options so you can answer whatever you want.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I just started to get lost there. The religiosity.
Sure.
You want to go on that one real quick?
Okay.
I would just. I'm not religious. I'm agnostic atheist, so I was confused by the question. But I don't believe because I don't have the evidence yet. Anyway, there's anecdotal evidence from other people, not myself. So it's not much to base belief on. As far as that's concerned, I don't think everybody's lying. I don't think everybody's mentally ill. I just think there may be other natural explanations rather than a miracle or some kind of divine experience. But
I would agree with you. I've never been able to accept magic as an answer.
Yeah.
So I've never been able to accept a miracle as religious people will normally describe what a miracle is. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's possible at all. Unless you go into theories like all things are possible over time, distance, space, and stuff like that. Yeah. But I don't see examples of things like that happening in my own reality. I don't know of someone who has actually had something like that, verified scientifically, and it actually happened. So since I have zero examples, I don't believe that's true. I suppose I'd bank on it if I had examples, but
yeah. What was the next one? I already forgot. You want to go on something about values? I think
intrinsic value of human is, I think, an interesting thing to know about someone.
That would be. How do I respond to that? I don't know. Kind of nihilistic in a way. I don't to a certain point, and then an existentialist, secular side to it that we just kind of make our own meaning in life. We choose to make ourselves important. Give a little bit of ego to ourselves, and a little bit of ego is fine to me.
If I can drag it back to the main topic, would you mind an interruption from the audience for a minute?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the empathetic atheist asked, or Justin. Hi, Justin.
Hi, Justin.
Richard, what is a miracle to you? A miracle is something that would be a rare event that disrupts how we understand physics in some way. I don't think that it is possible for a miracle to happen. Unless, like you postulated what I was just talking about, likelihood over time, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. In which case, it's not a defeat of physics. It's only anomalous. It's not a miracle. It's an anomaly. So I don't think there is such thing. Haven't seen Aaron Benton in a minute. Peace and respect, Aaron Benton. Welcome. And also Geo Sam and Casey Atheist Randy. Thank you. I don't think it's possible for there to be a quote unquote miracle. I also don't think there's a religious text describing any. Now, a lot of people claim the religious texts are describing miracles, but those are not necessities of context nor definitions from within the stories, and they're not plausible in physics, and they're not necessities for the accomplishment of their overall goal of the religious expression. So, I mean, it's fairly meaningless in all ways. If it were a necessity of the text, I would take it more seriously. Actually, if it was a necessity of the text, I wouldn't be a theist. Sorry.
Yeah.
I would give up my theism based just in that. If it,
So you're saying there's a chance.
What's that?
So you're saying there's a chance.
I am saying I wasn't joking about the 85 percentile thing. Yeah. Anything breaks that, it's toast. In my view, it's just to be thrown away. And yeah, that's too black and white, and it's not very subtle, and I'm a simple man, but that's just how I am. I have to be honest about myself. It either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, I'm done. You don't think that mountains falling from the sky is magic? No, I think that we call them meteorites. We have a name for that, and we know they happen. The question is, does one happen that's big enough to fit the prophecy? Does it burn the color that the prophecy says? Will one of them fall into an ocean and one into a lake? Those are the greater questions. Now, if all that happens, and exactly what's described in the text actually physically happens in reality, then I'll say, well, there you go. There's your quote unquote miracle. See, the miracle in the miracles is not a miracle at all. I didn't want to make this show about me. But I would invite you to comment on it after this. That way we can have some participation from our guest. Okay, so the announcing miracles, and that's a bad way to put it, but that's the way Christians say it. So for commonality of language, I'll say that, are so very defined in the text and so massive in scale that we can't do it, requiring materials we don't have here, that people can't do it. Okay. More than that, what the story indicates is that our ancient ancestors, if you don't mind me being Asian for just a minute, our ancient ancestors are the ones who will actually do these things. Okay, so it's intelligent interference. So like if I say, I'm about to tie my shoe, and then you wait and you look at me and you look at my foot, and then I reach down and tie my shoe. When I said it, it was literally prophetic. But since I'm doing it, it's only interference.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about physical beings having intelligence and great capability, the prophecy is not prophecy, it's intent.
Makes sense.
Well, Justin, you're always welcome, of course. In fact, if you want to do a show right after this, you're welcome to do that. It's up to you, totally, boss. I'm free for that. Okay, so back to Wes, who I'm trying to understand better. All right, okay. And I went and showed, and I bragged on myself and said, "Oh, I'll be able to bring it back. That won't be a problem." Okay, so where were we? Do you recall where we were?
Before we divagated, we were talking about intrinsic value of humans, if there is any. And I don't know that there is. It's important because it's important to us.
So it's more about how we feel about someone and our relationship with them or lack thereof.
Yeah, I think it's just values. We value human life. Whatever we value, we put up on a pedestal a lot of times. I mean, and hopefully we still treat animals well. We treat other beings well.
I think the greatest percentage of us do. The problem with it is it takes 9 months to gestate a baby, and then it takes about a good 15 or so years before they're fully functional. but to end a life does not take 15 years.
No.
And to be unjust to someone and really hurt them deeply does not take 15 years. So we can damage ourselves and each other much quicker than we can make ourselves and each other.
Yeah.
That's the issue in my view. If it took 15 years to kill someone, well, then you'd be at a flat ratio. You know, you'd probably get caught doing it. You know?
I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, I told you I'm weird. That's a weird way to look at it. But that's how I look at it, actually. Yeah. That's why
I'm a little weird too at times, so
I appreciate how weird you are. Actually,
something I like your weirdness, Richard. I really do.
Thanks, bro. Oh, we have Doubting Thomas. Peace and respect, Doubting Thomas. How you doing, bud? Wait a minute, I've seen you write that before. Welcome, just the same. At least he's true to form, right? Okay, so that would be truth theory. Your scale of no. Go ahead. Anything
you didn't mention Gettier cases and true justified belief. Well, you
mentioned
right. We didn't talk about it.
You want to?
Yeah. Real quick. Here's the statement: Gettier problems are just happy accidents with improper justification. Would you agree?
Well, I think that's what Gettier was trying to point out.
Yeah.
The accident of being correct, but you can't actually justify being correct. But I think that he made some assumptions. Would you speak to that?
I think with justified belief, we have to have properly justified things. We can't just, I have a reason to believe this, so I'm not going to believe it. The reason is not good enough. It has to be falsifiable, I suppose, or something that makes it cannot be false. Pretty much would be falsifiable by poppers. So something like that, or just so much information about it that it's undeniable, like evolution.
Right.
That we just...
If I say something like, I'm afraid we have a lag audience. Sorry about that. Wes and I are not rude to each other. It's just this happens sometimes. So if I say something like, every time in my hometown, every time Harley Davidson sales go up, so do pregnancies. Now that's a fact in some places in this world. It's a fact that actually happens.
Yeah.
So, but Gettier's mistake is saying that purchases of Harley Davidsons cause pregnancies.
I wouldn't say I don't think that's what he's saying, but I don't think it's false causation necessarily. He's just saying something is justified and then going back on it that it wasn't justified well enough.
So the example we reviewed, I was giving a very, very weak position on purpose so you could correct me. Would you like to expound on it?
Just hi all, Wendy. Okay, hi Wendy. I don't know what else there is to say about it. I just think it's not justified well enough. We need to come up with better justification when we go to think.
Let's use the employment versus coins in the pocket example that was used. Okay. Let's use that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So the statement was, and I'll just use $1. I'll just say $1 or a penny or whatever. It doesn't matter, I guess. It is true that the person who got the job had a penny in their pocket. Yeah. It is true that the person applying for the job, who was the first character introduced, had a penny in their pocket. The unfortunate part about that, and why he was accidentally right, that he thought because he has a penny in his pocket, therefore he'll get the job, was that the boss's son-in-law also had a penny in his pocket. So what you have there is the prediction or the understanding is correct, but for poor reasons.
Yeah.
So did you want to expound on that, or did I leave anything?
I just find like that example too. It's poor reasoning. He thought the other guy was going to get it, and he didn't think to look in his own pocket.
Right. So the issue with that is, although it's true that the person who actually got the job did have a penny in their pocket, the penny in the pocket had nothing to do with getting the job.
Yeah.
So it's, as doubting, post hoc ergo propter hoc, I believe is, if I said any of that near to correct, which I doubt.
Yeah, that's Latin, and you said all correct, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a brother that took Latin in junior high. It's the only reason I know anything about it at all, which is funny.
I wish I could have. I took it for a winter term in college.
Oh, here's one. A decrease in pirate population is causing the rise in global warming. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
There's one for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So so far that had been your definition of your metric for truth, how you apply it.
Yeah.
Intrinsic human value or lack thereof, and religiosity.
You had another one earlier, but I don't remember.
Oh yeah, I just make stuff up as I go.
Okay.
So morality, I think, is always something.
Oh, this will be fun. Okay, I have been entertaining the thought of an objective reality or morality, that is pretty much the same as a scientific fact or any ontological observation. Truth value is not much different than a ethical value or, well, ethical truth. To me, something has to obviously has to happen in the real world for it to be a good or bad thing. So I'm not sure how to expand on that, but and a lot of them I think could probably be found through science. Or
what do you think of Sam Harris's assessment of
I haven't read it.
prosperity versus pain?
I don't know. I haven't read it.
Oh, okay. All right. He expounds on it quite a bit.
Okay, yeah. I haven't. I just haven't read it, so I hate to comment until I read it, and I may change my mind once I read it. But I'm told there's what was it? Faith and belief or something. I forget the name of the book.
I don't know the name of the book. I've just listened to lectures.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to book, but
I don't know much about his thinking on it. I just came to parallel thinking, I guess. I came this quite a while back and probably about the same time as he did.
Peace and respect, Smokey Saint. Okay, so Sam Harris speaks to human flourishing versus human pain, generally speaking, and you may not hold the same metrics, and that would be fine as well. What do you think? I mean, if we refined science enough and understood the human animal well enough, do you think we could come up with standards based on, I don't know, biochemistry, brain function, personality types, personal preferences, where we could get a universal morality, if that's what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that would just be determining if something is harmful or not, or good for our well-being, bad for our well-being. I got told the other day I need to define well-being better, but for the sake of argument, we'll just use a colloquial meaning for it that most of you would know: just absence of harm and mental health, physical health, psychological, any way there is to be healthy, we are healthy for well-being. and I can make that different. I'm actually a bit of a utilitarian, but without pleasure, and replace it with well-being. Because well, it's kind of easy to see in a lot of places where I could go drinking all the time and maybe pleasurable, but there's a lot of harm done too. Where well-being, I would be more moderate drinker. I wouldn't let it affect my family. I wouldn't go beating my wife or something, or causing fights down at the bar, whatever you do when you drink too much. I usually just have more fun, but
Yeah, I'm a quite jolly fellow. I can't even get angry when I have drunk in the past.
Yeah.
People come up to me and had threatened me in the past, and I would just start laughing and walk away. Maybe they laugh with me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So I would argue with both you and Justin simultaneously, based in something that was brought up to Sam Harris that he addressed during a Q&A.
Okay.
In the case of, and this is not a majority, but my overall point is that you can never get a universal because of things like, okay, let's say that physical pleasure is better than physical pain. Let's say that's for instance. And for the majority of people, I think would agree with that statement. However, some people perceive pain as pleasure.
S&M.
And well, I wasn't going to, yes, but exactly that. Okay. Yes, that sort of thing, where they need to be in pain to experience pleasure. Yeah. They won't experience pleasure otherwise. So you have, although it's not a majority, I'm not claiming it's a majority in any way. Yeah. I'm just saying you can't have 100% universality in a theory like that because of anomalies like persons like that. So what is flourishing for them? Well, apparently flourishing for them is the physical sensation of pain. Well, who's going to provide that pain? Well, there are those who it cannot be self-administered.
Yeah.
Or else it does not perceive as pleasure.
We have sadistic people out there too that would love to do that though. So then they just got to put out a personal ad or something for another one.
So what we really need is we need to expound the idea of handicap parking. And take it into all realms of human function for the exceptions and legalize those exceptions.
Yeah.
You see how I just got into dangerous territory there?
Yeah. For me, it's just a case of treating people how they wish to be treated, which is in your Bible, your probably Book of Mormon, I don't know, Buddhism, Taoism, before.
It was nice that you included Wendy in the conversation. I appreciate that. I actually like the Buddhist expression better. I think it translated into English better, not that it's significantly better in its original language and intent, but it translates into English better. Do unto others as they would have you do to them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I meant to say.
Not to others as you would have do to you. It's not the same thing. So I like the translation in English from the Buddhist better than from the Christian Bible myself. I think it's more accurate and kind.
Yeah, that was my idea.
Go ahead.
No, nothing. That was just my idea too. Just pair them up, the Massachusetts and Satis, and we're all good. So
I think it's unjust to charge an extra fee. However,
yeah, I don't know. In this world, you got to charge for things, though. I'm learning. So,
yeah, I was married for 17 years. Trust me, there's certain things you can't charge for. She got a back rub like every night. Every night. Being neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Okay. That's funny.
Yeah.
simultaneous responses. Doesn't really work if you have to type. That's why I win, Justin, because you have to type right now. Okay, so would it be true then that if we advanced far enough in science and left the human and animal exactly as they are, that we could come up with an objective universal morality? After all, there are exceptions beyond what I've already mentioned, but do exist in reality. And I think that most people, not all, would find some of those exceptions objectionable, especially when it defeats the ability of a partner to give consent, especially in the case of them not being fully adult.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I missed part of that or
specifically pedophilia.
That's wrong really quick in an objective way to me because there's harm done. Psychological harm done of that child.
It's harm being done to the child.
Yeah, it's on the well-being.
Would the pedophile be enjoying it?
Yeah, but in a utilitarian view, we have to weigh both. And one is obviously worse than the other.
Is it obvious? I don't know that it's obvious.
To me anyway. I think the harm is more important to me than in this case, than the pleasure the sicko is getting. It's also not a good pleasure, a noble pleasure at all. It's a barbaric pleasure. So in that case, in that circumstance, it's not as good as even watching Shakespearean play or something. You know, it's just a barbaric, raw, carnal pleasure that isn't even worthy of measure, hardly. I have to weigh it in a little bit just because it is pleasure, but it's not well-being. It's not in his best interest either, probably, I would argue. So, and it's definitely not in the young girl or young boy, whichever. It's definitely not in their interest, and they're being harmed by it. So, in that case, I don't see that as hardly worth weighing. It's a quick one that does the other one.
And as a public service announcement, I have a friend who got divorced. The woman just decided that she was homosexual, but they'd already had 2 children, and she wanted the man out of her life. So she charged him with sexual abuse of his own children. And then brought in Child Protective Services, had him arrested a few times, put him in jail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But because he's a friend of mine, I wanted to know if that was plausible to believe. Now, I'd seen him around his children several times. His children did not treat him as if he were a sexual being whatsoever. They seemed completely unaware when they're standing on dad's lap where that left foot went and how bad that hurt. They seemed to have no idea what happened. And he didn't make a big deal out of it. And the kids continue to accidentally hurt him like any good dad would just allow for, and they're kids and you just whatever. But you certainly don't make a child aware of something like that. So that's how I saw him interacting. So I started doing some research, and just as a public service, if you have small children, I'd really actually like to inform you of how the statistics really work out. 85 to 90% of, I'll just say, sexual abuse of minors under 13 years of age are done by a heterosexual male between the ages of 15 and 21. Okay?
Yeah.
But that heterosexual male will not have a partner in their life of any kind.
Okay.
About 50% of what's left over after that is due to uncles that are beyond that age range, stepdads that are beyond that age range.
Yeah.
That's about 50%. About 15% of what's left of that, and this is getting pretty small percentage, but about 15% of what's left of that are going to be females.
Yeah.
And those females are going to be an aunt or a stepmother. And the lowest ranges are actually natural father and natural mother. And the least likely is a natural mother. The natural father weighing in at about 1.9% of the cases, and the natural mother weighing in at about 0.6. Just so you know who to watch for.
Yeah.
If you find an adult who has no partner in their life that they're sexually active with, I beg you not to let that person watch your children. And that was just a public service announcement. Yeah. Okay, so the reason I really wanted to bring it down to a point where you would find objection in the pedophile is because that's the end of your scale. That's where you draw the line. And I think most people would agree with you that's a reasonable place to draw the line.
Yeah.
But let's talk about how drawing the line actually works in humanity. How it actually works in humanity is we say, okay, these things exist. This from this point on, beyond that, I will not accept. So let's say we eliminated it. What's the next thing to eliminate? Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
So let's say we eliminated the chance of pedophilia ever happening again somehow.
Mm-hmm. I wish we
Let's
could
say we
somehow.
found the part of the brain that causes a person to be sexually interested in sex at all, any kind of sexual activity at all. And whenever we found someone from birth, we chemically analyzed them. We saw that there was something going on in the brain that later they were going to be a pedophile, and we went ahead and fixed it while they were a child, and they just never had sexual desire at all.
We've actually found in one case where, just a note real quick, that a guy had a tumor and became sexually attracted to children. They removed it. He was no longer attracted to children. It grew back. Well, sometime he went to prison because he acted on it. Later in prison, they removed it again, and he no longer had it again, like twice or something. I think he had surgery and no more thoughts of it, no more inclinations or sexual things. He claimed that it went away with the tumor.
Does that suggest to you that pedophilia is a dysfunction of the brain?
Yeah, to me it does. I can't prove it with one experiment like that, but that shows that it may be.
Okay, so let's bring the scale up to date. There is no such thing as pedophilia. Okay?
Yes, to the question on the screen.
New scale. How about rape? Rape of adults.
I don't know on that. I wouldn't say that probably is, but I don't know.
Probably is what?
Deviant. Up to part of the brain that may be able to.
For your metric, let's say, is it damaging to someone? Is it beneficial to someone? And which one weighs greater? Let's start there because that's the scale you used.
Sorry, I got lost there.
In the case of rape, Okay, so in the case of pedophilia, you said the pleasure to the pedophiliac is lesser than the damage to the child. Oh, and by the way, I agree.
Yeah.
I want you to know I agree with you.
Yeah.
Peace and respect also to the rage. I consider a friend.
Yeah.
Hope he considers me a friend. Okay, so let's use that same method of justification, pain versus pleasure. To the rapist, that's pleasurable. To the one raped, it is not.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we scale that? Which one is the greater pleasure or the greater pain? Should rape be eliminated in the same way? We find it as a dysfunction of the brain, for instance, or whatever. We correct it in early childhood. They will never rape.
Are they? I don't think it would be good if they can't have any sexual pleasure. If we could stop them from having,
No, I just said rape.
Just from raping alone,
rape.
that'd be great if we could do that. I think most people would want to have that in a rational, good state of mind. I don't think they probably want to be monsters.
Okay, so what we've done so far is we've taken the choice away from the natural individual.
Mm.
We have forced them into a situation where we alter them as a society to make them acceptable to that society. Does that sound fair?
I don't like doing it, but I don't know. That's a choice society would have to make, I guess. I don't know.
Well, let's you and me be the only society. Let's say you and I are king of the planet. It's just up to me and you right now.
Yeah.
And we have to
probably agree on that, to go ahead and do it and have a good society.
Okay. So what's the next thing up the scale? We went through pedophilia and rape.
I don't know what would go next. It kind of depends on, well, murder, I guess we could go there.
Let's go to bestiality.
Or bestiality, that's fine.
If you want to go
there.
I think I've worked through it enough that I can say, and most people would agree with me, that the animal cannot consent, and that's why it's wrong.
Yeah.
There's nothing physically damaging as long as, the physical parts wouldn't physically damage. It's not a size problem per se. But because the animal cannot consent.
Yeah.
Because it's not self-aware to the level that humans are self-aware. It cannot consent, and because it cannot consent, like a minor, in the case of like statutory rape. So we can say that the animal can't consent, thereby it is wrong. Let's run through the rest of the logic.
Yeah.
Is it harming the animal? Is it pleasurable to the assailant? And should it be eliminated?
The animal, you're saying, isn't harmed?
Well, let's face it, man.
I just want to be sure on that.
The male sexual organ is the same size in a lot of animals, generally speaking.
True.
Okay.
As long as you're not harming the animal when the guy does it or whatever, it would still be a bad action to do, I think, based on it's not helping him any, and I still can't see how it wouldn't be harming the animal somehow. But
BigZebra.com, if that's your reasoning, if that is your reasoning and your objection, I would say raise your own sheep and don't let other people have sex with it.
Yeah.
Get them their inoculations, make sure that they're healthy. Then you can have a sheep prostitute who has all of its correct checkups and is healthy and will not harm you or spread disease, if that's your objection. I don't think it's a good objection.
I don't either.
Okay, would you? I'm sorry.
I was just saying that's something I'd have to think about on that one. I don't think that is one of the is necessarily if it's hard to pinpoint where it's wrong. if there's no harm done to the animal. Usually you think of it not having consent and such. So,
Well, if it's a consent issue, we don't need to discuss statutory rape. That's a given.
yeah.
Okay. So what we just said there was that at an adult male who is sexually aroused and acts on that arousal toward an adolescent, someone who's not quite an adult, say a teenager, okay, has violated that teenager because the teenager is not adult enough to consent.
Yeah.
Thereby, if they have the inclination to do that, society should have the right to physically alter them in the kindest way possible so that they no longer have the inclination to do that. Is that fair?
I don't know if it is, because we have the whole idea. Well, I don't believe in free will, but certainly we're an agent that desires to have the ability to make even bad decisions if we so choose. I think there's probably some value in that. Even though we don't have free will, I would say there's. I wouldn't want somebody altering me, I guess, where I couldn't do anything bad. That would only leave good choices.
Yeah, this is where Sam Harris falls short, in my opinion.
Okay.
This is my problem with Sam Harris's theory.
What is his theory there? What does he think there?
He thinks that there's a possibility of a future utopia, objective morality.
Oh, like a utopia of being able to do this? Fix the mind? So
yes, but you're simultaneously... Okay, if you can identify and say it is a birth defect, and you eliminate the birth defect while the baby's still in gestation and it suffers not whatsoever from that erasure, that correction. Say they do it through CRISPR or something, right? Yeah. That's all well and good if you can get that kind of result.
I think pedophilia is different than the other one, though. Possibly because of the whole tumor thing in the prisoner. That it may be different because it may be not just a bad choice he made, but at least the attraction could be removed, which he may not want in the first place. I don't think most people would want that. And the other circumstances, I think it may actually be just bad behavior, of selfish behavior in case of rape or statutory rape or bestiality.
It's only selfish.
It may be a deviation. It may be a deviation thoughts, but it's not like I don't see it as being a tumor or something like that causing it.
I'm not saying that there are no women who are underage that are attractive. I'm not saying that. Yeah. I've seen young women that I thought to myself, when she grows up, she's going to be really beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, that is not the same thing as me having sexual thoughts about that underage woman or acting on any sexual thoughts about that underage woman. Now, I'd like to think of myself as normal, okay? That I can recognize the beauty of the animal without saying I have to have that animal.
Yeah.
You know? So I'd like to think of that as a healthy way to look at it. Yeah. It's not that I am in denial of someone's attractive qualities, but because of their immaturity, they are not fully attractive. There is something missing there that makes them not attractive. Yeah. And I'd like to think that's the majority of society, although I can't really know. I've never really spoken to anyone about that in particular thing. The guys in the side chat are just making so many bad jokes. I should try to ignore it they come back to being more serious. Although I love them, they're just goofing off, having a good time. Yeah. That's good. Okay. Okay. So what I'm saying in all this, and if I haven't made my point well enough, we could continue. At some point in this scale, in the weighing of pleasure versus pain, it's leaving out. I think it's too shallow of a reading of what a human being is. We also have to look at like birth defects, tumors, say traumatic brain injuries, and personal preferences, and all of those things. And when you really start getting down to it, in order to create the society that you, as a majority, think is the best possible society, you get to the point where you're eliminating the will of people. Yeah. You're taking away their free will. You're changing them to fit you just based on your majority. Now, is that moral?
I don't know that it is. I think we value having choice. I don't know if that's, I hate to use free will because I don't really believe in free will. But if you could put that aside, I'd just say real quick, free will. We want to have free will to do things. And if I don't have free will, then what's the point of making good decisions if you couldn't have made bad ones, for example? It would take the morality out of the whole equation and just make us robots. And I could still say that we are agents, perhaps, just not free ones.
Right. Okay. So, bearing that in mind, how would you answer to the question, at what point do we cut it off?
That's hard to know.
I mean, what if the majority said everything other than what is colloquially called the missionary position? I mean, if you start eliminating things from what you consider objectionable, you just create a new scale, and the lowest thing's objectionable, and you create a new scale.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
so there would have to be something that everyone agreed on was the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
And that would be the eventuality.
Yeah. That's why I don't even want to start on that slippery slope.
I mean, I think it's literally impossible to address as an objective measure. And I don't know if Sam's thought about that or not. I think you cannot create an objective measure because of the complexity of the human animal.
Yeah.
And that we respect individual autonomy.
Yeah.
And we'll call it free choice of the options that are there. Okay. Yeah. Out of consideration for you, I'll call it free choice. Although I believe in free choice anyway. Yeah. I don't believe in free will. Okay. Out of consideration for you, I'd say free choice. Personally, I believe it's free won't.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I need to look at free. That's Daniel Dennett, right?
I'm sorry, we spoke over. Go ahead.
Yeah, Daniel Dennett, I think, believes in free will.
I don't know that.
And I'm not sure. I think he believes in free will. I've got his book, but I haven't had time to read it. So
many books, so little time.
Yeah.
Yeah, my experience indicates free won't, not free will.
Okay.
Okay. And one good reason who's quite good at these things and spends a lot of time on these things and very bright. He was willing to concede free won't. So I think that's pretty good. I mean, for me, I am such a novice. To come up with something that's even reasonable is quite amazing. So, okay. So my overall point is that I don't think there can be a majority who's deciding what the objective is, even if we perfectly understood the human body, because of the problem of autonomy.
Well, truth isn't a consensus anyway.
No, it's not. That's true.
I think that's part of the point you made, though, or we're making.
I mean, chemically analyzing the human animal to the point where we can say what is absolutely best for the human animal.
I'm not even sure how we know that, other than through reasoning and hopefully getting closer to it as we learn more about the human condition and so on. I mean, I think reading a utilitarian book may help. A categorical imperative book by Kant. All these other Rawls, Hobbes' contract theory, all these things. I think we can study it and get a little bit from each one and get closer.
I've never heard of Hobbes' contract theory. Is that like societal agreement? Is that what that's addressing?
Yeah, social contracts, like just anything that we kind of agree to in society to pay taxes, things like that. I suppose. I don't know. I'd have to research it again.
Oh, okay. I've never heard it, so I was just breaking down the words. You've answered my question good enough for now.
Okay.
BigZebra.com. The solution to your problem is robots that look like humans. That's the solution to your problem. Sex robots.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Now, if you had sex with a sex robot that looked just like your wife, would it be cheating?
It's a great question. What do you think?
I think so, because it's not the wife. Like it is.
I think it would be cheating because you're aware it's not the wife. If at any point you were not aware,
yeah, if you weren't aware, then
you're not cheating.
Yeah.
Like, say for instance, she needs a week vacation.
Oh.
Things are going on. I'm gonna let you. Okay.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No, it's quite all right. Life happens. I have one too. Every person is controlled completely by their wants. Nobody has been able to refute that. That's a really good point, Justin. Now, whose wants matter?
Yeah.
Is it majority or is it respective autonomy? You decide.
I like the second option, I think, but I know that consensus isn't good enough, but unless it is subjective, then maybe that works. I don't know.
Well, certainly it would be subjective. I'll agree with you there.
If it's all subjective, then I suppose you don't have an ultimate truth, so you're just going by democracy or common opinion.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't know.
That's all well and good until I'm the transvestite.
Yeah, that society doesn't
at
like.
the bottom of the scale that everyone says needs eliminated.
Yeah, yeah.
And they want to grandfather me in, and even though they didn't do it while I was a child, and even though I will maintain all of my memories of being exactly who I was, I will know after the surgery what happened, and I have no choice.
Yeah.
So the question is, where are you in the scale of acceptability? And by whose measure, and how do you decide it?
I don't like consensus because consensus is too often wrong. And that's part of the reason why I think I like the objective ethics that we are just getting closer and closer to with more knowledge and understanding. Oh, okay. But if we, on the other hand, look at cultural relativism, I think it's got some flaws to look at too.
Would you give a brief definition of that before we go into it?
Pretty much, if you think it's okay for people in Islamic countries to let's say, or well, I shouldn't pick on them there, but
Let's just speak something that's true. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's true.
yeah, I was thinking of Muhammad and Isha, that she was so young. We just call that pedophilia and stuff in our country, and that's caused a lot of fights in my life too, and some of the religion rooms. But I would argue that it is absolutely wrong in any culture, any time. Slavery was bad back in before time of Jesus, or and after time of Jews, whatever. When the Bible speaks that it's okay to hit your slave as long as they don't die within 2 days, something like that.
There's one in there like that, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to condone slavery in a lot of ways, and I would say that's absolutely just disgusting to think that way and make excuses that it's a different time and place and therefore it's okay. That's just a cop out to me to try and make it okay.
When you would never get a universal out of that, and you would never get well-being generally out of that.
Yeah. You're never going to get well-being by torturing or even just owning somebody's property, whether you beat them or not. It's not cool to own people. It's just not.
Me being a highly, I'll use the word religious, although it doesn't work very well, person, I actually have a contextual defense against the assertion that what is being spoken of in the Quran is child rape.
Yeah.
Actually, and I would love to talk to anyone about that at any time. But this is not that conversation.
Okay.
But there is a reasonable defense that that's not the topic.
Okay.
But child rape is wrong. I agree. You shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I don't care. What does it say? Waited until she was 9 or 11. I can't remember the exacting number before he consummated the marriage.
9 or 12. 9, I believe.
Wrong. What?
Yeah. I believe 9. I'm not sure, though.
Doesn't matter. It's still wrong.
Young enough, it's wrong.
And by the way, I'm extremely offended by Christian apologists and Islamic apologists who try to justify those things. Mm-hmm. They cannot be justified. It is not reasonable. I don't care about the time frame, and I don't appreciate your saying anything is right according to some other society. That's not true. Yeah. After all, if you were that slave or that 6-year-old girl, it would not be okay no matter the context.
Yeah. I used an example the other day that would you sell your daughter in the slavery in any circumstance? And for some reason they say no, but they don't get the
weird, right?
Yeah. So they get it to a point. They just don't want to apply it to their Bible, it seems.
Right.
True.
And that's another conversation I would have, is defending the Bible in servitude and slavery. There's actually easy justification for that. In fact, definitionally, it can't mean something else.
Okay.
In fact, it doesn't even mean slavery or servitude, either one, in any kind of a classic frame. But it's only using it as an example. Every Muslim I have talked to says 9. Thank you, Rach. I appreciate the help. I could not recall. Yeah, 6 when they were married, 9 when they consummated. Thank you, Rach.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard. Thanks for the confirmation. I couldn't remember which one it was. I'm a little bit dyslexic anyway, with numbers, and my brain don't get along very well. It normally took me about 3.5 to 4 years to memorize our home phone number. I'm serious. It's that bad. And then when I did, my dad being in the Navy, we'd move.
Yeah.
And then I'd start all over. Yeah. I never knew our phone number. The only phone number I can recall from being a childhood into a early adulthood, say before age 30, is I was military and I lived in the same house for 5.25 years. Almost, I said 6. That's wrong. 5.25 years, and I know the phone number from that.
They were talking about wants in chat, but I don't know much to say about it. But I kind of agree that our wants is not something we can really change too much. I mean,
Right.
we believe based on what we want. I don't know how to get beyond that. I mean, get around that. As Justin was saying.
I really enjoy where this conversation has gone and bouncing these ideas off of you and asking you questions about them, because I've been in contact with Snake Was Right. Are you familiar with Snake Was Right?
Yeah, I've seen him in side chat before.
He's a brilliant young man. He's trying to postulate a theory of objective morality in naturalism. He's been working very hard at it. And for the first time since he introduced the idea to me, I have an actual objection that I can present to him now.
Oh.
And he's been asking me for one. For whatever reason, he thinks I'm worth talking to about that topic. I'm not sure why. But now I have something to say. So thank you. Thank you, Wes. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, after all, I think he's an honest person trying to make the strongest case based in the best reality. So now I have a shortcoming to point out, and that's because of you. All right. What do we do now? Okay. So we've been kind of entertaining side chat audience, etc.
Yeah.
Anyone who is, it's okay about the Caps rage. Don't worry about it. I'm not freaking out. But I appreciate you being considerate of others.
Who is a blind trumper?
He would be referring to Snake Was Right.
Oh, okay.
Brother Naka, there are highly intelligent people who believe absolutely ridiculous things. And if you don't agree with me, there are smart Christians. And you know that.
Yeah.
So I think you're forced to agree with me that there are brilliant people who believe ridiculous things. So I still maintain that Snake Was Right is brilliant. Despite what, and I don't voice political opinion myself in these public talks. I was prior service. I learned entirely too much about what our military actually is and too much about the intent of our government. And I promise you, I'll say one thing right now and probably never say anything ever again, even if begged, but I'll say it one time. If you think Trump or any part of our government are idiots making accidents, you're giving them too much credit. And you've been duped.
Yeah.
In other words, you're falling for it if you think that's true. Okay, so objections, thoughts, wrapping it up, anything at all for participants in the side chat. And really, guys, I appreciate all you guys showing up. If you support him, you are a special person.
Yeah.
You may be right. Okay.
And I second the part where you said there's some brilliant people. Well, you didn't say brilliant, but you said I know a few people that I would call almost brilliant that believe some ridiculous things.
Yeah, I have a brother who is literally been tested at genius. And I mean, he was going to MIT for free, if that says anything about what kind of crazy smart dude he is.
Yeah.
I love Knock. It's easy to get him stirred up about Trump, though. May have even done it to himself this time.
By the way, I was referring to you as a. If you didn't catch that.
Oh, I didn't. I appreciate that. Thank you. On both.
It was one of those backhand comments that we give each other all the time.
I was looking at the side chat too much to have really processed it. I apologize. I'm not trying to ignore you, but I'm trying to ignore no one. Yeah. So it's a little bit scattering. I ain't got no manager.
I was doing the same looking chat earlier and lost track of what you were saying because I was reading. Smart and plain evil, yes.
Smokey Saint, I would email him directly about your existence on this planet And you two are welcome to engage, of course. But there is going to be one requirement of me doing that for you. I need your permission right now to give him my honest opinion of your stance before he says it's okay, because I don't want to be dishonest to him whatsoever. So if you'll give me approval for that now, I will contact him for you. Okay. So side chat guys, type anything that you want. Tell me how ridiculous something I said was, and we'll address it in the moment. Because I want to give you guys the respect you're due. You signed in. If you're here, it was only announced through my media sources, which means you probably subscribed to this channel or you wouldn't have known this existed. And I appreciate that deeply. I do. I value each of my 222 subscribers. I really do. And if 3 more people subscribe, we'll have a 225 hangout where you can personally come grill me, and I will make sure to alert everyone to that. So and switch you guys out one question, and you guys can come tear me apart. If that sounds like fun to you, it certainly sounds like fun to me. And Wes, I think we should go ahead and wrap it up. Been a really enjoyable conversation. Again, I am unsurprised and only confirmed in my opinions of you that you are a patient and very intelligent man who has considered a lot of things in his life.
I try.
You succeed, sir. You are succeeding. No doubt about it. What you said was so ridiculous, but he won't say what it was. Because that's doubting Thomas. I get you, man. Okay. Final thoughts, Wes. You have the floor, sir.
I'm still not any closer on my objective morality thing, but it was fun to talk about and think about. Get a little closer to finalizing any beliefs I have. Well, not finalizing. I don't plan to ever make them final. But maybe I'll go to subjectivism sometime again and revisit some things. I don't know. Got a lot more thinking to do. And I think that's a good thing.
I hope we all do.
Yeah.
The Rage commented, Richard has an ammonia potent beard. That I guess that means when I dye it. And I make it red again, which I do on occasion. In fact, it's only gray in appearance right now because I've allowed it because I wanted Math Pig to know I love him. That's the only way that. See, this is not dyed. That's natural. And I think all of it should look like that. So I dye it because I'm going gray in my beard too early. I'm only 52, man. Yeah. He meant omnipotent. I'm still gonna stick with what I said. It's only omnipotent when I dye it. The rest of the time, it is not omnipotent. I have an open channel. You can come talk anytime. Rage, you are one of the most interesting, honest, and sweet people I've ever met in my life. And if ever you weren't, well, I certainly think you are now. And in my view, truly a warrior for humanitarian efforts. And I thank you for that. Truly, I do.
Anyway, thank you, Richard. You are what I admire most, compassionately wise.
I'm working on it, boss. I'm trying to be. And I need you guys' help. I do. I need all of you to point out when I say something stupid. Yeah. And don't be shy about it. I'm not going to go cry in a closet. Yeah. I want to be better at being a person, being a human being, being part of the community, and being part of the race on this earth. I want to be better at it. Help me be better. Okay, guys. Yeah. That's the end of it before I start crying. So we're going to sign off. I want you to know that all of you do have my wish that you have in your life, peace and respect. And I want you all to know that I do look forward to the day that we're all great friends. Till next time.